Passage 3. This passage is adapted from the article Read My Lips by Chiara Bazzini. In the passage, dubbing primarily refers to providing a film with a new soundtrack, especially dialogue in a different language. Filmmakers have debated the respective merits of subtitles and dubbing since the earliest sound films. In The Impossible Life of Clark Costa, published in 1940 in the film journal Cinema, director Michelangelo Antonioni wrote that Romolo Costa, the person who dubbed all of actor Clark Gable's performances, was a hybrid individual born out of a chemical combination. This half Clark, half Costa was unbearable to Antonioni, who considered dubbing to be a mere acoustic surrogate of acting. To him, dubbing compromised the intention of the director, leading to an artificial product that lacked artistic unity. Director Pier Paolo Pasolini, who called both dubbing and subtitles evil, said that between the two, dubbing was the less harmful since it allowed you to see the picture in full. Director Jean Renoir called dubbing a monstrosity, a challenge to human and divine laws. Director Federico Fellini didn't agree with any of them. Dubbing was an extension of his shoots, a technique he would use to retouch and rewrite. He mercilessly dubbed over his actors, changing dialogue in post-production, sometimes having worked without a script. He reportedly instructed his actors to count aloud in front of the camera so that he could insert new dialogue afterward. Renato Cortesi, a veteran Fellini dubber, told me that during the filming of Amarcord, he witnessed Fellini ask an old Neapolitan lady to tell him a sad story. Over footage of this woman recounting a tragic tale about her grandson, Fellini added a new soundtrack about war and hunger recorded by an actor from Emilia-Romagna, combining the vivid expressiveness of the South with his favorite Northern accent. If you visit a dubbing studio, the over-the-top zest of the actors is evident in everything from their melodramatic speech to their movements. Standing in front of the microphone, they coil and twitch. I asked Cortesi whether this was a consequence of having to focus one's lifelong talent into the few centimeters between mouth and microphone, a kind of bodily rebellion to the condition of being heard but not seen, and he laughed. Of course, it isn't easy to spend a life in the darkness, but this is hardly the reason why they twitch and turn. Dubbers are used to reciting while trying to recreate the bodily sensations of what they see on the screen before them. If there is running in the film, they will run on their feet. The moving, he explained, is the result of recreating large movements in small spaces. There are still few options for those seeking to watch subtitled original language films at a movie house in Italy. The Metropolitan Cinema on Via del Corso closed recently after a long battle involving intellectuals, show business people, and American and British expats in Rome, to be replaced with a clothing store. Italians remain hooked on dubbing, perhaps because of simple affection. Familiar voices yield emotional attachment. Francesco Vairano, a dubber and dubbing director known for adapting foreign films considered to be undubbable, such as the French box office hit Bienvenue chez les Stis, Welcome to the Sticks 2008, which relies on linguistic misunderstandings for much of its comedy, explained that actors become just as attached to their parts as audiences do. Vairano has been one of the few directors to break the habit of matching the same Italian dubber to a foreign actor for all his films, preferring instead to select the dubber according to the requirements of the role, and he admits he was hated by all the prima donna dubbers for this. If you take that actor away from them, they will insult you. In 2007, I met dubber Luca Ward, who provided the voice of the narrator for a romantic comedy I co-wrote, Scusa Mati Chiamo Amore, Sorry But I Love You. What I didn't then know was that everyone Ward met wanted him to recite actor Samuel L. Jackson's Ezekiel 25:17 passage from the film Pulp Fiction, and that I should consider it an honor that he would offer a performance to a stranger. When he finally did recite the monologue, it was astonishing, every dramatic pause carefully timed and every word perfectly enunciated. I understood that if anyone took Samuel Jackson away from Ward, it would have meant taking away a part of his soul. He was, as Antonioni would say, half Ward, half Jackson. Leaving the day's recording session, Ward told me he was off to have dinner with actress Meg Ryan before raising an eyebrow and clarifying, with Meg Ryan's dubber, I'm having dinner with Meg Ryan's voice. The last sentence of the passage primarily serves to illustrate the passage author's central claim that a dubber wants others in the film industry to respect the actor he or she usually dubs. The work of Ryan's dubber is as effective as that of Jackson's dubber. A dubber begins to seem almost like a hybrid of him or herself and the actor he or she dubs. Ward is unlike most dubbers in that he prefers to dub many different actors. So this is C, right? Because we know that when Ward says that I'm going to meet actress Meg Ryan, he actually means he's going to meet Meg Ryan's dubber, right? So this is kind of a reiteration of the amalgamation of the dubber and the actor that the passage talks about. So C. It can reasonably be inferred from the passage that regarding whether dubbing is useful or valuable, Vairano would most strongly sympathize with the views of which director? So we hear about Vairano here, Francesco Vairano, a dubber and dubbing director known for adapting foreign films considered to be undubbable, explained that actors become just as attached to their parts as audiences do. He has been one of the few directors to break the habit of matching the same Italian dubber to foreign actor for all his films. So he is somebody who uses a lot of dubbing in his films. So we would think that he would agree with Fellini because Fellini was another director who amply used dubbing, and not just later after the film was done, but even in post-production. So that would be Fellini. The main function of the second paragraph, lines 18 to 33, is for the passage author to present. So 18 to 33 is the introduction of Fellini and how he was a little different from other directors like Jean Renoir and Paolo Pasolini, who thought of dubbing as evil. Fellini was not like that. He used dubbing a lot. So to present her own ideas as an example of a contemporary perspective on the merits of dubbing, a perspective on dubbing that bluntly counters those outlined in the first paragraph, Fellini's personal direct response to Renoir's criticism of his work, a claim centered on Fellini's work that strengthens the argument that she made in the first paragraph. So the answer to this would be B, right? Because if you look at the first paragraph, in the first paragraph, the author talks about the respective merits of subtitles and dubbing, and then she presents some views, right? She presents views of Antonioni, Pasolini, and Renoir to say that, there were some writers who were not in favor of dubbing. Antonioni thought that, you kind of merged the personality of the actor and the dubber, and that was unbearable to him. And similarly, she presents Pasolini and Renoir's views. So then Fellini comes as the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Somebody who liked dubbing and used a lot of it. So B. The anecdote about Fellini's footage of a woman recounting a tragic tale primarily serves to. So this comes from here, 25 to 33, that Renato Cortesi, a veteran Fellini dubber, witnessed Fellini ask an old Neapolitan lady to tell him a sad story. Over footage of this woman recounting a tragic tale, he added a new soundtrack about war and hunger recorded by an actor from Emilia-Romagna, combining the vivid expressiveness of the South with his favorite Northern accent. So this was another way that he used dubbing to not just, convert one actor's voice into another, but to actually add depth to his film. So, explain why Fellini preferred to feature voices with northern accents in his film. Provide a famous example of Fellini closely following scripted dialogue. Illustrate the extent to which dubbing was a part of Fellini's craft. Show why Fellini preferred his actors to follow a script rather than tell their own stories. So this is edge, right? This is to show the extent to which he used dubbing, not just, as I said, between actors, but also in scenes, in sequences, etc. Okay, what about the scripted dialogue bit? Let's see where we talk about scripted. Yeah, so he worked without a script, right? He did not use a script for most of his films. So it is not a scripted dialogue, and he did not ask them to follow a script. So that eliminates G and J. As Scorsese is presented in the passage, does he agree with the passage author's assumptions about the reason for Dubber's over-the-top zest? Okay. So in line 34, we know that if you visit a dubbing studio, the over-the-top zest of the actors is evident in everything. I asked Cortese whether this was a consequence of having to focus one's lifelong talent into a few centimeters between mouth and microphone, a kind of bodily rebellion, right? So, see, he doesn't agree with the author. He says that this is not the reason that they twitch and turn. So, the author assumes that they twitch and turn because they don't really make it to the screen, right? So, it's kind of concentrating all of their talent into that little space between the mouth and microphone. But Cortese says no, the real reason is that they try to recreate the bodily sensations on screen, right? For example, if they are dubbing for a scene in which the actor is running, they run themselves. So Cortese does not agree. He gruffly makes clear his belief that she does not at all understand the dubber's work. No, he corrects her misinterpretation with an explanation of his own. So the author misinterpreted it, and he says, no, this is not the reason. The reason is to recreate the scene. It can most reasonably be inferred from the passage that the Metropolitan Cinema on Via del Corso was known for showing films that had been. So this comes from here. There are still few options for those seeking to watch subtitled original language films at a movie house in Italy. The Metropolitan Cinema on Via del Corso closed recently after a long battle. So this basically showed subtitled original language films, right? So this was known for films that had been subtitled only. The passage most strongly suggests that at movie houses in Italy today, compared to subtitled original language films, dubbed films can be found. So you know that subtitled films are not popular. In fact, the Via del Corso closed recently and to be replaced with a closing store, but Italians remain hooked on dubbing. So while subtitles are not popular, dubbing is very popular among Italians. So dubbed films can be found much more easily. The passage indicates that a foreign film with which of the following characteristics is particularly difficult to dub. So we know that if you have a lot of linguistic comedy, right? Because this film, Welcome to the Sticks, relied on linguistic misunderstandings for its comedy. And so dubbing could not really convey that, right? Because it was a French film. So if you're trying to translate the jokes, the French jokes into Italian, it would not always be successful. So what is particularly difficult is the linguistic misunderstanding that creates comedy, because that is not easy to dub. According to the passage, the work of dubbing director Vairano differs from that of most other directors in that Vairano. Okay, so we hear about Vairano here, and we know that he has been one of the few directors to break the habit of matching the same Italian dubber to a foreign actor for all his films. So most directors, they choose a particular dubber for an actor and they use the same dubber for all their films, but Vairano has not done that. So he focuses on dubbing French films into Italian. He does not necessarily match the same Italian dubber to the same foreign actor for all his films. So this is the point of difference with other directors. As used in lines 16 to 17, the phrase a challenge to most nearly means 16 to 17. Okay. Director Jean Renoir called dubbing a monstrosity, a challenge to human and divine laws. Okay, so it's an assault on, a declaration of, a question for, an offer to. So he's using it in a highly negative context, right? He's saying that it goes against all human and divine laws to dub. So the best answer would be an assault on. Okay, let's grade this. 21. CGBHD, CGBHD, and GAFBF. GAFBF. Okay, great. So we got all correct.